Did you know that Bruce Willis almost didn't want to shoot the fifth Die Hard movie? In fact, he'd openly expressed wanting a proper send-off for John McClane in what should have been the sixth and final film. Yet, here we are, 36 years after that original masterpiece, watching how one of cinema's greatest action franchises slowly loses its soul. From an 8.2 IMDb rating to a crushing 5.2, from practical effects to CGI overkill, from an everyman hero to an indestructible superhero. This is the story of how Die Hard died hard. The franchise that gave us the iconic Yippee-ki-yay line and redefined action movies has undergone a fascinating yet tragic transformation. The first film revolutionized the genre in 1988, giving us a vulnerable hero who fought with his wits rather than superhuman abilities. Fast forward to 2013, and we're watching John McClane surfing on fighter jets and surviving impossible falls without a scratch. So how did we get here? What turned this groundbreaking series into just another generic action franchise? But before we dive into the 7 reasons that derailed this legendary franchise, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Now, let's head back to Nakatomi Plaza and uncover exactly what went wrong. Reason number 1, the evolution of John McClane. Let's start with what made Die Hard special in the first place. John McClane wasn't your typical 80s action hero. In an era dominated by the impossibly muscular frames of Schwarzenegger and Stallone, Bruce Willis gave us something different, a regular cop with relationship problems who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The first 3 films understood this perfectly. McClane was afraid of flying, had marriage troubles, and got visibly hurt during his adventures. When he ran across broken glass barefoot in the original, you felt every shard. When he was suspended from the force and struggling with alcoholism in Die Hard with a Vengeance, you saw a man dealing with real consequences. But something changed after the third film. The everyday hero we knew started morphing into something else entirely. By Live Free or Die Hard, McClane had somehow transformed into an indestructible superhero who could survive jumping onto moving fighter jets. The scratches, the limping, the fear in his eyes, all replaced by CGI stunts and impossible feats that would make even Batman raise an eyebrow. Reason number 2, bigger is not always better. Die Hard's brilliance came from its confined setting. One man, one building, one night. The claustrophobic nature of Nakatomi Plaza created tension you could cut with a knife. Even Die Hard 2, while expanding to an airport, kept that sense of contained chaos. But with each sequel, the scale just kept ramping up. From a building to an airport, then to all of New York City, then the entire United States, and finally, by the 5th film, we're somehow in Russia dealing with international conspiracies. The franchise forgot that bigger is not always better. Look at that difference. In the original, every punch felt real, every gunshot had weight, but by A Good Day to Die Hard, we're watching endless explosions that feel more like video game cutscenes than a Die Hard movie. The intimate, personal stakes that made us care were buried under mountains of excessive action. Reason number 3, the villain problem. If there's one thing that perfectly illustrates the franchise's decline, it's the deterioration in the quality of its villains. Alan Rickman's Hans Gruber wasn't just a great Die Hard villain, he's one of cinema's greatest antagonists, period. What made Gruber special was how he matched McClane intellectually. Every move and countermove felt like a chess game. The sequels try to recapture this magic, particularly with Jeremy Irons as Hans' brother Simon in Die Hard with a Vengeance. But look what happened after that. Timothy Oliphant's Thomas Gabriel in the 4th film was a generic cyber-terrorist who could have been lifted from any action movie of the 2000s. And by the 5th film, can anyone remember who the villain was? The sharp, witty dialogue between hero and villain that defined the original was replaced by forgettable antagonists with murky motivations. Reason number 4, the family focus shift. Another crucial mistake was how the franchise kept forcing McClane's family into the action. In the original, Holly being trapped in Nakatomi Plaza made perfect sense. It raised the emotional stakes while keeping McClane's motivations pure and simple. But then something strange happened. The franchise became obsessed with putting McClane's family in danger. His wife is in the 2nd film, his daughter Lucy is in the 4th, and finally his son Jack is in the 5th, each time feeling more contrived than the last. By the time we reach A Good Day to Die Hard, we're expected to care about McClane's CIA agent's son, a character we've barely heard about in previous films. The father-son dynamic that should have been emotional gold ended up feeling forced and hollow. Remember, the original Die Hard wasn't about McClane saving his family. It was about a regular cop doing what needed to be done because nobody else could. Reason number 5, the PG13 problem. Here's a change that perfectly symbolizes the franchise's decline: the shift from R-rated grit to PG-13 sanitization. The original Die Hard was famous for its raw, realistic violence and McClane's colorful language. It felt authentic to the character and situation. When Live Free or Die Hard opted for a PG-13 rating, it wasn't just about toning down the violence. It fundamentally changed the franchise's DNA. Gone were the sequences of violence that made McClane human. Instead, we got bloodless action, and even McClane's iconic catchphrase had to be censored. This sanitization reached its peak in A Good Day to Die Hard, where despite returning to an R rating, the action felt more cartoonish than ever. The visceral, brutal combat that made the original so impactful was replaced by over-the-top stunts and CGI spectacle. Reason number 6, the identity crisis. Perhaps the most damaging problem was that the franchise seemed to forget what made Die Hard special in the first place. The original wasn't just another action movie, it was a genre-defining masterpiece that combined intense action with clever writing and genuine character development. Look at how the action evolved. In the original, McClane used whatever he could find: a fire hose, an office chair, a computer monitor. By the 5th film, he's driving through nuclear wastelands and surviving impossible falls. The franchise tried so hard to compete with modern action blockbusters that it lost its identity. The John McClane we met in 1988 was relatable because he felt real. He was scared, he made mistakes, he got hurt. But by 2013, he'd just become another invincible action hero. Exactly the type of character the original Die Hard was rebelling against. Reason number 7, the box office curse. The numbers tell an interesting story. While the later films still made money, there's a clear pattern in how audiences and critics responded to each new entry. The original Die Hard holds a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and is considered one of the greatest action films ever made. By the time we reach A Good Day to Die Hard, we're looking at a crushing 15% rating. Even the box office success couldn't hide the fact that the franchise had lost its way. What could have saved the franchise? The irony is that the blueprint for success was there all along, written in the DNA of the original movie. Let's look at what could have preserved McClane's legacy. First, keep it contained. The best Die Hard movies understood that tension comes from containment, a single location, a clear objective, and real stakes. No need for global conspiracies or international terrorism, just smart writing and clever action with people we care about. Second, keep it personal. McClane works best not when he's trying to save the world, but rather dealing with an immediate and tangible threat. The original wasn't about saving America, it was about surviving one night in one building. Third, practical effects matter. The original Die Hard still holds up today because everything feels real. The explosions, the gunfights, the hand-to-hand combat, it was all done with practical effects and stunt work that gave the action weight and consequence. Lessons for the future. Well, Bruce Willis has now retired from acting. The lessons from Die Hard's decline are valuable for any franchise trying to maintain its identity while evolving. Look at how movies like John Wick have learned from Die Hard's original formula: practical effects, contained storylines, and heroes who actually feel pain. Even recent hits like Nobody show that audiences still crave action heroes who feel human rather than superhuman. If the MCU's anything to go by, we're clearly kinda tired of superheroes. The tragedy isn't just that the Die Hard franchise lost its way, it's that it had the perfect template to follow all along. John McClane didn't need to become a superhero because he was already something better, a regular guy rising to extraordinary circumstances. And that's it. So, what do you think went wrong with the Die Hard franchise? Was it the shift away from practical effects, the increasingly outlandish plots, or simply the natural evolution of a series trying to stay relevant in the post-Marvel era? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of action cinema's most influential franchises, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. This video was made by movie fans, for movie fans.